Right, we've gone live, members. So good evening and welcome to the Policy Committee of Craven District Council. Usual mute if you're not speaking, please, members, and use the raise hand function so I can, or wave madly so I can clock you if you want to say something. We'll get on with the agenda. So item 1, apologies for absence and substitutes, and I'm guessing a roll call as well, Guy.
Yes, please, Councillor Foster. So received apologies for absence from Councillor Heseltine, a notification that Councillor Shuttleworth is the substitute. Then a quick roll call, please. So no sound, Councillor Barrett yet. Councillor Foster.
Present.
Councillor Ireton.
Present.
Councillor Liz.
Present.
Councillor Madeley. Not yet. Councillor Metcalfe.
Present.
Councillor Morrell. Not yet. Councillor Mulligan.
Present.
No. Councillor Myers. I don't think Councillor Myers might be just joining us. I'll just come back to Councillor Myers. Councillor Noland.
Present.
Councillor Place.
Present.
Councillor Rose.
Present.
Councillor Shuttleworth.
Present.
Councillor Wheeler.
Present.
I'll just give Councillor Myers an opportunity just to say that you're present at the meeting. Councillor Myers.
I am present. Thank you.
Good timing. Thank you very much. You're mute, Councillor Foster.
That old chestnut. First one to do it tonight. So confirmation of minutes. I'll move them from the chair if I've a seconder, and then is there any hands?
Second them.
I'm taking silence now to mean no, but nobody's desperate to say anything about them, so we're happy for them to go forward. Thank you, members. Public participation. I do believe we have a couple of members of the public wishing to speak. Is that correct, Guy?
Yeah, I understand that we've got Pat Taylor and Mike Smith, trustees of Sattel Swimming Pool. So I think they may wish to address the committee this evening.
It's Mike here. I think it's Pat's going to do the principal speaking, but she looks as though she's on mute at the moment.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Pat, please.
Okay.
Over to you, Pat. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks very much for letting us speak and introduce ourselves. I'm chair of the Settle Pool Trustees and Mike is a fellow trustee. And we are applying for funding to expand and refurbish our current 50-year-old swimming pool to create a health and well-being centre for all ages. The pool serves a very wide area in North Craven. It was originally built to ensure that children learnt to swim, and that focus is retained very much, along with a wide variety of water-based activities for all ages and abilities. We have always enjoyed strong support and involvement of local people as users, friends of the pool, done a lot of fundraising, volunteers and trustees. The Friends paper recycling efforts kept us going and helped us pay bills for years. And our current charity shop has been extremely successful in helping us keep going, despite the current problems of COVID. We've always also had strong support from public funds over the years and from our elected representatives. The late Richard Welsh spoke to our application in July and as always has given us unstinting support over the years. You have all the detailed information in front of you. I joined the trustees about 6 years ago, and ever since I've joined, we've been trying very hard to do something to make sure that our 50-year-old pool will survive and bring it up to date, and to be able to diversify our activities to make us more financially viable. So I commend the application to you and look forward to the results. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything at this point, Mike?
No, I would just merely to endorse everything that Pat said.
Thank you.
If members are happy, would you be happy to move this forward to the first item, and therefore, while Mike and Pat are still in the room, if you can both mute Mike and Pat though, because you won't be allowed to speak in the debate, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. There seems to be some nodding around to do that. So if item 8, I believe Councillor Ireton, you're introducing this one.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the revised business plan provides updated projections for both the capital and revenue positions for a range of scenarios and how they impact on the proposed health and wellbeing hub development. Although the revised business plan consists of different trading condition scenarios, as requested at the Policy Committee back in July, it does still present a marginal case, and therefore any support offered by the Council should be on the basis of a formal funding agreement and loan. The funding documentation shall include clawback provisions to protect the Council's investment. The challenge of settle area swimming pool was identified in the revised business plan in cash flowing the new build, staged payments and revenue position during the building process. No income can be generated. Various items are noted as supporting the position, such as an estimated VAT refund, but the timing of payments cannot be guaranteed to align with the payment schedule for the new build or the ongoing revenue costs. This is set out in more detail in the table at Appendix C. Planning permission was granted for the health and wellbeing extension on the 1st of February 21. A new COVID recovery leisure fund was announced by Sport England on the 14th of December 2020 for outsourced community leisure facilities. And I can report that today £31,542 has been allocated in a successful bid for swimming pool by the council. The swimming pool provides school swimming lessons and is a community facility. Supporting the capital investment in the pool and associated facilities could help to ensure the provision remains available in the local area. The contribution requested from the council is a significant proportion of the total capital cost and will be funded from the new homes bonus reserve and would back in of the new loans sought to ensure the project is delivered. The scheme contributes to both. Enterprise in Craven improve the economic viability of Craven's market towns and villages, resilient communities, enable active communities and improve quality of life. The Chief Finance Officer, the 151 officer statement, that says, council support for this project should help to ensure the continued operation of the facility. A viable business case has been provided, illustrating that the capital investment and resulting operating model can deliver a sustainable model. However, the margins within the business case are very tight, and so it is crucial that the council takes reasonable steps to protect its investment. The use of the extension will support the health and well-being of the community. I move the recommendation and hope members will support settle area swimming pool and the wider community. Thank you, members.
Councillor Ireton, do I have a seconder before we carry on?
Yes, I shall second it, Chairman.
Councillor Liz. Right. So opening it up to debate. I haven't got hands up yet. I'm sure I'm going to get a couple. So, but Councillor Rose and then Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I really do appreciate the amount of time that's gone into following up the request that was made at the previous policy meeting. So in my book, it looks to me as if the people concerned, the trustees, have made a determined effort to follow our request, which they must be commended. It's obviously another very lengthy document, but it really does show that this is a project that is more than worth supporting. I feel very strongly that the pool and its future as a health and wellbeing centre is essential. Through COVID, we've learned the importance of mental health and well-being and how that's linked to physical health and well-being. And the swimming pool is going to do that by the bucketful. I do appreciate that the finances are going to be tight, but I'm quite sure that the previous, if you like, financial management of the pool previously shows that the trustees are more than capable of doing their level best to make sure that nothing is too wildly overspent, or management of the finances is very carefully done. I can't commend this more. I just think it's excellent, and we deserve, the whole of the area deserves to have this project go forward. And I really appreciate the work they've done, and let's get it started. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. I'll come to Councillor Mulligan and Councillor Wheeler, then Councillor Myers, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I do think that the business plan has improved. I put that down to both the Settle Area Swimming Pool and to our officers in Richard Way. It's still a bit shaky to me, however. I think it could be more robust. I have a few concerns, one of which is the reliance on the charity shop. There doesn't seem to be a plan B for that. It's just an assumption that they're going to get 50 to 70 grand a year from the charity shop. The other concern is that they don't seem to have any reserves, because the Friends of Settled Swimming Pool is basically being liquidated, and they're putting all their money into this project. So it would be good to know that there was going to be some ongoing fundraising, that there might be a group of supporters who would continue to do that job for the swimming pool. I think the other thing I would just be very mindful of is, and I would like to actually propose an amendment to the recommendations, Chairman, and that would be that the Settle Area Swimming Pool agree to submit an annual copy of audited accounts to Craven District Council for scrutiny by our Chief Financial Officer. I think we're making a very large investment here. We have a business plan. We want to make sure that it's working, and we need to be monitoring it on an ongoing basis. So with those sort of provisos and with those concerns, but I would, I'll move that recommendation, that amendment rather. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Realise we're speaking to an amendment now. I'm actually happy to second that amendment from the chair, that those accounts do come in. I do think A, for the pool, and B, for us, it just gives that bit of reassurance backwards and forwards. So I think it's quite a good suggestion, that. But on that note, we're speaking to the amendment, but it's however you want to look at what you've got to say. So Councillor Wheeler, over to you.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I appreciate the amount of work that's gone into the revised business plan. I'm happy to support the amended proposal. Even back in the days when Helen was a councillor, you always saw tremendous community support for this particular facility, and I think that's probably the strength of the whole bid. In that, I'm confident that with community support backing this, they will deliver. And frankly, it's this kind of facility that the new homes bonus is all about. So yes, strongly support it, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to hear the support of my fellow councillors for something that I think exemplifies really what Craven District Council is about and is able to do, not just on a business case, but because we believe that this is an essential facility for our residents. And we've all had some concerns about the business. The margins are very tight. and it's a big commitment by the council. But I've done my own little sort of Jeremy Corbyn straw poll out there in the community, because of course this pool is well used by people from Gargrave and Long Preston and up the Dale from here, Allendale, and I explained to people why some on the council might have some concerns about the business case, and if it was a purely financial investment that the council was making, we may have difficulty coming to a sort of conclusion. And after all, it's their money, it's the ratepayers' money. And I can say unanimously that they were of the view that if the council was going to take any degree of risk in what it did, these were the sort of risks they wanted us to take, because the benefit to the community is so substantial. And it would be a poor do if we spent millions of pounds trying to attract young families to stay and bring up their children and work in the Dales, and then we close down such an essential public asset. So I'm wholly in favour of it. I think it's a very important thing for the council to do. I like the amendment put forward by Councillor Mulligan, very prudent in circumstance. And I'm sure the trustees will continue to work with, I know Sharon has put a lot of work in, and Richard Way, and they have our support, and they know they only have to ask the officers here for advice and support in the future. I'm grateful to them on behalf of my community for all the work they've done in this, and it will be great to see it come to fruition. If in these COVID times we had to look at a business case for Airville, I'm sure it wouldn't look so rosy either. It's a very difficult time to present to anybody for funding. So well done, everybody who's worked hard, and it will be great to see it fruition.
Councillor Myers, I've Councillor Ayrton, then Councillor Liss.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is a wonderful facility for that wider area communities, as Councillor Myers has said, right up into Malhamdale, into High Bentham, Low Bentham, and beyond. I, as mover, am happy to take on the amendment into the recommendations. I don't think we need to vote that. I think we can take that on board within the recommendations, Chairman. I'm sure the seconder of it would also think that way.
Going to the seconder, Councillor Liss.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm not going to add anything apart from I'm supporting the amendment. It seems sound sense. Members have said it all. Every member have been supportive of this. Councillor Myers crystallised my thoughts. If we are going to take any chances on Craven with our investments, these are the sort of areas that we need to be doing it at. They need our support, and I'm hoping tonight that they get that support at this stage from this council. So hugely supportive of it, Chairman.
So we do have an amendment somewhere in there. Our guy who's penned it out. Are we happy with what we're doing?
Councillor Foster, Chair, the proposer and seconder have altered their original motion to include the amendment, so I think we can now incorporate it into the substantive motion.
That's absolutely fine. So yeah, thanks to the good work of the officers and to the trustees that we've actually got to a business case. It's been a long time coming. It's settled swimming pool. I've sort of been there. I've been on the council long enough to know that there's been financial difficulties, everything else going with it. And yes, hopefully this is the project we can back as a council. I think there's been a few in the past that we couldn't really. So it's really good to hear the positive speaking of everybody tonight. It's going to be hard work for the trustees, and good luck. And like Councillor Myers said, you know, the officers are there to help you, so please feel free to drop them a line if you do come across problems. And yeah, we need a swimming facility in Tattle. That is the top and bottom of it. Kids need somewhere to learn to swim, because not learning to swim is just not on in this century. So on that note, over to the vote, Guy. Do we need a vote, or is it a nod? Or
yeah, I think we'll need a vote for this item. So if members could indicate whether they're for, against, or wish to abstain. That's incorporating the amendment that's already been discussed. Councillor Barrett's not present at the meeting. Councillor Foster.
or
Councillor Ireton.
Or
Councillor Liz.
Or
Councillor Madeley's not present. Councillor Metcalfe.
or
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
or
Councillor Noland.
or
Councillor Place.
or
Councillor Rose.
For.
Councillor Shuttleworth.
emphatically for.
And Councillor Wheeler.
Or
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, Chair.
thank you. And hopefully double good news with £31,500 and now the ability to go forward with the backing of Craven District Council today. So not a bad day for the settle pool. So with that note, we'll go back to the beginning of the agenda. Councillor Mulligan, if you can present agenda item number 5, please.
Thank you,
And
Chairman.
by the way, you can leave now if you want.
Yes, members. Yes, members, this is the revenue budget monitoring for Q3 of 2020-2021. Based on the December budget monitoring exercise, the council's performance against budget is a forecasted overspend of £565,000 for the full financial year. Of this overspend, $1,229,000 is within the net cost of services and an underspend of $661,000 within the corporate cost. So this takes into account the grant support already received from the government and an estimation of compensation awarded also by the government for lost fees and charges. Not include an estimation for the final period of compensation. It also reflects an assumed contribution, future years budget mitigation and possible collection fund support in the next few years. So in other words, members, we are still in a very difficult place where we have gotten a great deal of support from the government. The concern would be possibly that when the government support ends, there might be a gap between the recovery of our revenue in terms of our car parking fees and charges, etc. And if there was a gap, that would put a great deal of pressure on us. However, the government so far has been quite good about filling that gap. But it's only pledged that support going forward for a certain period of time. So paragraphs 3.4 to 3.11 summarize the major budget variances, and Appendix A gives further details of the variance by service. The income and savings plan has projects totaling £176,000 for delivery this financial year. The impact of delivery of the completed projects on future years are savings up to £68,000, and this information is in Appendix B. Appendix C provides analysis of current reserves and the balances of the council. And the last thing would be the chief financial officer will determine how in-year variances are treated, taking into account the current year and medium-term financial position of the council. And the recommendations are in paragraph 2, and I would move those, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Mulligan, happy to second from the chair for the move of brevity. Members, comments, quotes, points of view on this? I'd just like to say that, you know, it's been a tough time for the officers pulling this together in amongst putting out the latest tranche of business rate grants and everything else. You know, this is a day job, which is the bit that we normally do, and to get this report out. It's not all sunshine and roses, but I think it's a lot better than we maybe thought at Q1, Q2 and into the pandemic. I've Councillor Wheeler.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Only a couple of comments. Most of my questions have been answered in advance of the meeting, but in response to the answers, it is purely comments. One, you're right, the position is probably better than we would have anticipated, and appreciate the work that's gone into it. I did note that, I'm just scrolling down another screen, waste management needs singling out in terms of praise more than anything. I mean, to come in just 15,000 overspent on the budget they had under the circumstances we're operating in is a tremendous achievement. I did also noted that some of the savings that have come through are through vacancies, and you know, I'd just like to think that we don't suffer overall by not filling these vacancies, and I would like to think that we are still working awfully hard to ensure that the vacancies are filled to carry on to make sure the continuity of the service is still good. So I think it was ICT and a couple of others where there was a problem. And the point I did raise, and I had the answer anyways, in cultural services, the delivery phase of the museum project was almost double the budget, which is always something that is a concern to me. You know, budgets are there to be kept to, and whilst you can expect, you know, 15-20% overspend on budget, to double the spend, it would be interesting to know why. Although I gather, I was told project management costs, I can cover a multitude of sins. Thank you.
Anybody willing to come forward with a bit more detail on those?
No, I'll find out, Mark, and I'll get back to you.
Chair, if I could,
unless Richard knows.
Well, just a bit of detail. There is well, there will be some external funding to offset some of that additional in-year cost. So the variance reported at Q3, we would hope would be improved by the time we report Q4, and that additional external funding's been accounted for in the budget. Thank you.
So it's in there now, but we haven't quite got the funding in our bank, so therefore it looks like it's a loss. Is that what I'm getting, Richard? Just to clarify.
We've incurred the cost, and there's some additional external funding to offset some of that additional cost, but the external funding isn't represented in the budget position yet, and when it is, it'll improve the position for that budget line.
Right. Yep. Happy with that. Any more on this? Councillor Rose. You're muted, Chris, I think.
Not now, I hope. Just really, I have to say I do trust totally that those councillors and obviously the finance officer have got a good grip on this, because I trust them completely. I am encouraged on paragraph 313 that the close monitoring that obviously is being done very effectively obviously will continue. And I have to say, I put my trust totally in that monitoring, and obviously the reporting we're getting, which is extremely effective. And to say thank you really for that, so that those of us who perhaps don't have quite the same grip or understanding of the detail of the finances, at least we can be confident that the monitoring is continuing closely. So really, it's a matter of saying thank you very much. I'm very reassured that those who do understand are keeping a close eye on things. Thank you.
I too try to understand, Councillor Rose. I think I've got a bit of a grasp of it, but it's quite handy to have Councillor Mulligan there, who has a very strong grasp on it from a member's point of view as well. So, feel assured by the work that Patrick puts in with Richard on this as well, that, you know, it's not just the officers covering their own tails by hiding behind a load of figures. It's well looked through as the running of the council. Looking around for other comments. It's just a note, so can we nod this through?
Yeah, it's just for noting. So yeah, that's fine.
Members happy? Nobody's putting their hand up. Oh, Annette's waving a hand.
Chair, it wasn't on this item actually. It was just to say I don't think we've dealt with agenda item 4, declarations of interest.
We'll do this and then I'll go back and do that. So we're happy to note that then, members. Agenda item 4, members. I got carried away with settled swimming pool and public participation and going straight in. I do apologise. Declarations of interest, members.
None, Chairman.
Looking around, and most are shaking their heads. Councillor Myers, I believe you may be declaring.
How very good of you to remind me, Chair. Yes, on the Langcliffe Quarry item, I am declaring a paragraph 15, whatever, interest, which means I will not be taking part in, I won't be presenting that paper. Greatly to my regret, because it's very good news. And I'll let you do it, Chairman.
Thank you. It's nice for you not to steal the limelight on good news. So moving on, we've nodded through that. We've now caught up with declarations of interest, and we're moving on to the capital programme. Please, Councillor Mulligan again.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is the capital program monitoring for Q3 of 2020-2021. The report presents the second financial update for the 2020-21 capital program at 31st of December 2020. The report shows that following additions of previously approved projects, supplementary estimates, and slippage, the capital program is now valued at £15.4 million. Paragraphs 3.3 to 3.5 highlight the changes to the program, which give a forecasted outturn capital program of £11.08 million. At the end of Q3, expenditure on the program was £3.64 million. Appendix A gives commentary on each of the program projects, including progress. Forecasted outturn value for each project is also given. The recommendations are in paragraph 2, and I will move those, Chairman.
Thank you. Happy to second from the chair. And in actual fact, Councillor Mulligan, you've probably given the best bit of news, because of the fact is that it's gone up by 11 million as the capital programme this year through increased investment in Craven. A lot of it with external funding. A bit of a problem is that we've sort of had to back it with our own money, but we're working through that. So hopefully those costs and those liabilities of the council are going to be minimised. But there's some big projects now in here at £11 million for a district council to be spending in a year. So I think you're actually the bringer of the best news, really, Councillor Mulligan, with having these in the capital programme.
That's a first.
No, I wouldn't take it so harshly. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman. Only one question. I asked again in advance of the meeting about I think it was 3.4 of the report about the assessment of all existing projects, and was told that they are still going ahead. I didn't ask a follow-up question, which was remiss of me. In light of what you said with regards to all the projects going ahead, has there been or will there be a significant impact on our cash flow?
I'm guessing that's over to Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, happy to answer that. Yes, we referred to the review that we did earlier in the financial year before it was certain what level of support we'd get from government to deal with the implications from COVID. I think it's fair to say that all councils were concerned early in the financial year in April around cash flow, as some of our revenues started to slow down or be cut off. But what the government did to help address that was to pay in advance a number of grant streams and other support very early on in the financial year, so that the cash flow side of the business was shored up quite early on in the financial year. The reason we looked at the capital programme with a view to potentially having to defer or delay or even cancel some projects again early on in the financial year was because until we had that guarantee from government around our income losses and other grant support, it was just a case of any expenditure that we weren't already committed to in the financial year might need to be deferred to a future period, just to alleviate the spending pressures in the year. But as the years moved on and the position stabilised, and we've had the confirmation around a number of avenues of government support, then everything that was approved in the capital programme for the current year is progressing, unless from a project perspective there's a reason why it's been delayed. But we haven't positively removed or delayed anything that was in the capital plan. If it's delayed, it's because there's a delay with the actual project, and it will carry over to next financial year. Thank you, Chair.
You're nodding, Councillor Wheeler. Looks like you got satisfaction there. So, looking around, members, no, the hands flying up. So I guess we can note the fact is that Craven District Council, in theory, has got to spend best part of 11 million quid by the end of the year. So, looking at a couple of officers to make sure they do. So, on that note, members, there seems to be nodding to note. So I'm guessing we can move on to the next item, which is agenda item 7. Councillor Liss, I believe you're
Yeah.
in charge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chairman. Yeah, our members will be well aware of the issues of littering throughout our district, and of course dog dirt. well aware. It's been going on for years. This, of course, has now become a larger problem more recently due to significant increases in visitors to the area, and in particular the Yorkshire Dales National Park during the summer of 2020. Further to that, it has to be said that it's anticipated that this will continue as the restrictions are eased. We've already seen a slight increase, even though the summer restrictions haven't been lifted. So goodness knows what's going to happen when they're completely lifted. The recent increases led to reports to various agencies, including the police, North Yorkshire County Council and Craven District Council, of issues such as parking, obstruction, antisocial use of vehicles, litter and general antisocial behaviour. The police, in response to that, distributed a short survey to local residents and businesses in the area affected, and there was a large number of responses, and basically the responses led us to think, well, the priority was 100% of the respondents put littering as the biggest issue, and indeed the number one priority. As a matter of interest, parking was second with 94% of respondents, and third was antisocial behaviour at 82%. So a whole plethora of things, but very clearly litter was at the top of the list. Following this, a visitor management working group was established in August 2020 to consider the issues raised, which included the CDC, parish councils, West Yorkshire Police, Yorkshire Dales National Park, North Yorkshire County Council, and a local tourism industry representative. The current position is that our Cleaner Neighbourhood Service, which deals with littering offences, has 3 staff members, but because of some of them don't work full time, we actually have got 2 full-time equivalents in that department, and they are doing their best. Patrols are carried out in response to complaints, but limited capacity to focus on one issue, such as littering, or to patrol all areas of high footfall during peak visitor months, is still proving to be problematic. and something that I'm sure that each and every one of us as councillors have been pulled up upon by our residents. The proposal we have in front of us tonight is for Craven District Council to carry out a 3-month environmental awareness and enforcement pilot using an external environmental enforcement company, a short, quick shot in the arm in terms of enforcement. The initial proposal is to begin with, is the pilot to start in mid-April 2021, subject to lifting of national restrictions, of course. However, it may be prudent to move this to mid-May to cover the spring bank holiday. Awareness and enforcement activities will focus on littering and dog fouling in the district area with high levels of footfall and high visitor numbers. As well as the proposed increase in activities, Craven DC will work closely with the Yorkshire Dales National Park to ensure the best use and deployment of staff resources in both establishments. It's anticipated that the pilot will initially focus on Grassington, Freshfield, Burnsall and Linton. Now, the reason for this is because the issues highlighted during the summer highlighted those areas have been particularly problematic. However, it's expected that other areas in the district will also benefit during the pilot. The enforcement company will provide 2 enforcement officers, a vehicle and back office support relating to the issuing and collection of fixed penalty notices. Some level of resources will be required from CDC officers, including the initial procurement exercise, regular contract meetings, and to agree deployment and patrol patterns and customer inquiries. In financial terms, the anticipated maximum cost of the pilot is £7,000 per month, or £21,000 over the 3-month period of the project. The potential level of income per month is suggested, and I say suggested, at around 3,000, based on the issue of 3 fixed penalty notices issued per day. We are in fact looking as to whether it may be appropriate to apportion some of the COVID-19 grant support provided to fund this pilot scheme, due to, of course, the obvious effect that the pandemic has had on this situation. As I said earlier, it's a shot in the arm. We need to do something. I just feel that this is a way of showing to the people that live within Craven that we are serious. I remember being in the newspaper with 3 or 4 of our employees smiling and saying we're going to get tough. Well, this is the next step of that. We are going to get tough. We have got to start prosecuting because it is still going on, and we've got to show the public that we intend to do something about it. So I move the recommendations in front of you tonight, members, and hope that I get a seconder. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Liss. I have Councillor Myers and Councillor Shuttleworth.
I'm very happy to second this proposal, which I think is an excellent one. It makes me smile and think of Councillor Walsh, Richard Welch rather, and how delighted he would be by this. I remember him haranguing the council to spend more money on stopping people from littering and dog fouling, which is of grave concern to our residents, and quite right. So I'm very happy to say it's a thoroughly good idea, and I hope it works. Just for those eager residents of Craven who are listening and are concerned about litter, and of course it's the time of year when we particularly notice all the littering on the verges by the roads. There will be a plan of action to deal with this. I communicated with the Director of Services today, Paul Ellis. He tells me that will be rolling out, and more detail will be available within the next week or 2, I think. So that is in hand, and it will be done. I was speaking to somebody at the National Park recently, they drew my attention to interesting action taken by Richmond District Council, which is an ultimate weapon that the council has, which is if there is more misbehaviour this summer, as there was at Threshfield Quarry, for example, last summer pandemic, Richmond has brought in public area protection orders, I think they're called. I'm sure Annette will correct me if I'm wrong, at Richmond Falls, which prohibit any social gatherings, any intimidatory behaviour, and so on. So there is that final bow in our quiver if it comes to it. Let's hope education, spot fine, will make people desist, both visitors and residents. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. So I've got Councillor Shuttleworth, Metcalfe, Rose, and then Wheeler. So over to you, Councillor Shuttleworth.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's been practice policy until recently that we would educate and encourage the general public how to behave when they came to our district, so that they wouldn't spoil the area for local residents and also others who behaved sensibly. And I think it's right that the time has come that we need to demonstrate that we're serious about this, to use enforcement powers. As a lot of members will already appreciate, I've expressed this view about some planning issues some 12 months ago, but it's the only way. And publicise that action that we're taking, and eventually it may well sink in. It isn't a big request at all. It's just to use common sense and some restraint. As for the relaxing of lockdown, goodness knows what's going to happen, because on Sunday, which members will recall was a lovely early sign of spring, alas, now receded, but even my own ward, MC with Eastby, was, I don't know how much percent increased traffic on the road and footfall through the fields. It was almost approaching bank holiday standards. Of course, it's not too far over the fell, down to Barden, where unfortunately there isn't presently a local councillor. And something needs to be done, because believe you me, if it isn't done soon and done emphatically, then the rest of the year, well, I'm sorry to be a pessimist, but things could get really serious and out of hand. So I was going to second the motion. Councillor Myers has bit me to the post, but I am emphatically in favour of this proposal, and I wish it well, and hopefully it will develop and people will come to realise that Craven and her sister authorities and bodies are authorities with authority. Thank you.
Councillor Shuttleworth, Councillor Metcalfe.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, I think this is a very good idea. I'm fortunate enough to live in Kilnsea in the Yorkshire Dales. I do have some questions, however, because during lockdown last year, and also when the lockdown was eased, the situation was, well, it was quite repellent, to be quite honest, in the Dales. And I've experienced it firsthand by people who have total and utter disrespect for the area in which generations of my family and friends have been brought up in. So that's the first thing. There are also mixed in with a lot of these people criminals. I'm also part of the Upper Wharfdale Rural Watch. And what I would like to know is, going forward, although I think it's a good idea, and I'm not sure whether 3 months is long enough to pilot this, I would like to know how the 2 enforcement officers are deployed, because there's communication with the National Park, with the park rangers, and although you're looking at Burnsill, Thrashfield, Linton and Grassington, it might only be a few small villages, but there are so many nooks and crannies where these people can actually go to. And somehow I would suggest a link in also to the Rural Watch, because they have so many contacts within the local community. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what link do you have into the police? Because I suspect, I'm not sure what powers these enforcement officers have, but I can certainly imagine what response they will get from certain people who will just very impolitely tell them to go away. And I'm just, kind of interested in a little bit, I suppose, more of the detail, because I would really like this to work, because I love where I live. And for that reason, really.
Do you want to answer this one, Tracy, or do you want me to answer those 2 questions? I'll go to you, Tracy.
Yeah, I can have a go. Certainly linking with the Upper Wharfdale Rural Watch, that's no problem. Obviously, we're going to be linking in with the Yorkshire Dales, with the police, through the working group, which the chair may give details of. We're currently linking with the police, usually via the Community Safety Hub. So, I mean, obviously, the officers do have links in with the police themselves, but a lot of it's done through the Community Safety Hub. But I suspect, certainly throughout this pilot, it will be the working group that's set up that will be the biggest source of information for us and help with regards to deployment.
And just because I've sort of been part of the working group, it was sort of set up by the previous chief inspector or inspectorate. Yeah, the Rural Watch is part of this, Councillor Metcalfe. It has to be part of this because everything links through. There's WhatsApp groups for both, isn't there? So it's a case of getting all the relevant bodies together. The police were even talking about voluntary PCSOs and stuff today. That is a possibility as well, to make some of the Rural Watch people, so therefore they can do more. So I think there's things happening all the time through this, and one of the things we got, the actual group wants to do. I mean, this is just Wharfdale. I mean, I don't want these officers just to do Wharfdale. If there's a problem at Horton and Ribblesdale, we need to get enforcement up there. But the Wharfdale one, we're going to keep going back and looking at it. I mean, I think one of the things we can't do is put shutters down and stop people coming. People are going to come. So it's how they manage. And I think Craven's bit of that management at district council level is the littering, is the rubbish side of it. It is sort of our mandate to sort that out. But the police have their mandate for antisocial behaviour. Highways have their mandate on traffic management. It's a multi-agency thing, is this. It was a huge problem last year, but I'm probably saying too much at the moment because there's other members wanting to speak.
So, sorry, can you just answer my question? How is it going to be enforced? Because, what powers do they have? I mean, we want people to come here, completely get that. Absolutely. But we want people to respect the place. So those that don't, how is it going to be enforced?
Let me answer that, Chair. Yeah. So they'll have the same powers as the Cleaner Neighbourhoods officers. So when we enter a contract with an external enforcement company, they're granted powers to act on our behalf. So anything that the enforcement officers can do now, including the fixed penalty notices, that's what the external enforcement company can do. They will then also be responsible for collecting of fines, and then it comes back to the authority to deal with if there's non-payment of fines, and ultimately if there's any prosecutions will come back to the authority. So they will have the same powers as we've got at the moment. Does that help?
I also think, just sort of answer that, the idea is the enforcement officers, the police, the national parks, the national wardens, the national park volunteers will try and hit an area together. So therefore, if people are being, the idea is to coordinate this, go and pick on an area and do it with all the agencies there, using the, first of all, advise, secondly, tell, thirdly, and as a final circumstance is to put a ticket out there on them and tell them that they've been fined. So it really wants to be a multi-agency across the piece with this, that everybody's there working to the same goals at the same time, and on sunny days. There's no point coming and turning up when it's pouring with rain. So hopefully the links are going to work. Hopefully it's going to come forward. But if it doesn't, we're going to make sure it does. And it's to roll out, if you know what I mean, and make sure it works. This needs to work right across Craven. Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, some of my concerns have already been mentioned. Certainly the enforcement does worry me. I'd want to think that, not that word gets around that this is a terrible place to come just because they get smashed, they get fined for whatever. But I think there is a need for people who are visitors, who don't know the area, who perhaps aren't aware of things like the countryside code, etc., who do just need to be made very firmly aware. And I'd want to feel that we have confidence in the enforcement side of matters. And thank you. It sounds as though that is a possibility. Secondly, I always sort of shudder when I hear multi-agency or multi-group. It's the coordination. It's making sure that every area can be covered in some way, shape or form. It worries me that, one bit might get missed out because something's happening elsewhere. So I'd want to feel confident that there was an effective overall management. Am I making sense here, I hope? And thirdly, I've just written myself a note, Malham. Malham's not included because it's not in Wharfdale, or because Malham has a terrible time with influx of visitors. And finally, at least turning people back, turning people away, will that still continue? I.e., if you've come from Manchester, go home and find somewhere a bit nearer to have a barbecue. Another question, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Do you want to answer? I'll answer the police one, having been in a meeting with them today, and up until the 29th of April, yes, there will be about turning people away. That's what they said today. They've been told to do it. They've been told to go around the hotspot areas, and they will be continuing to do that up until the 29th. So, Tracy, over to you on the.
Yeah, so coordination will be us, Craven District Council. So we'll be the main management of it all. So we'll obviously advertise for the company. We'll, whichever company is successful, we'll deal with the setting up the contracts. We'll deal with the deployment of officers, and obviously that ongoing liaison with them to make sure that it's working for us. So that ultimate responsibility will be with Craven Council. Malham, I can't really comment on why it's not in the proposal as such. I think it's just possibly wasn't one of the areas that were picked up quite as well as the ones mentioned were. But, I do anticipate them going to more areas than what was listed in the report. They will be working, they'll be contracted, I anticipate, 6 days a week, certainly weekends. And that will be a case of, they won't be in those areas all the time. I do anticipate them going to other areas in the district.
I've got Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Shuttleworth and Councillor Lace.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy, for your answers in advance of the meeting. I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing the report that's we will be seeing at policy. I think you said late autumn. I did ask about success criteria, and I know you've touched upon it, how we're going to judge whether this pilot is successful. And there were two aspects of it which members probably should know. I mean, number of enforcements is one thing, but you also talked about number of interventions, and I think that's equally important. It's not just about the enforcement notices. It is about the education. I appreciate there are, as I've said in my email, a small percentage of people that come here that are recidivists that we will never educate. The bulk of them, I think we can, and they will learn a lesson. I understand why the pilot is taking place in tourist areas. It's a beautiful environment. We need to protect it. But if this pilot is successful, I do look forward to seeing it rolled out to non-tourist areas where the environment is equally important to the residents that live there. Thank you.
Tracy, if I can add a question to Councillor Wheelers of how we see success. How many skipfuls of litter did the Wharfdale Wombles fill last summer?
We left a skip there for a full month. I think it was the month of August. There were at least 3 large skips.
So if we can get that down to 2 skips that the local litter pickers having to pick up, I think that'd be quite a good successful measure. Councillor Shuttleworth.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for letting me have another bite at the cherry. At the risk of making Councillor Rose shudder, there is another body which I would suggest be considered to join the working group, and that's the fire service. Because open air barbecues, in addition to creating a distinct fire risk, certainly in the area of Wharfdale we're presently talking about, where there are substantial heather mowers, there's also the subsequent litter, which sometimes isn't fully extinguished, and a brisk wind could well reignite a problem. So is that something that could be taken on board, please, that we invite the fire service for a representative?
I can do that one as well, because we do have a guy at Freshfield Fire Station who is also can drive an ambulance and is a fireman and also a police. He's not quite a PCSO, he's one below, but basically he's been provided by the fire service. So in actual fact, he's linked into this. So he's linked in with ambulance, he's linked in with police, and he's linked in with his fire head on as well. So that they are involved. I've got Councillors Myers, Mulligan, and then Councillor Liss. I'll let you finish off.
Yeah, no, just to sort of enforce the fact that although it may read to be a bit parochial, which have something to do with the chair, we recognise that I think Malhamdale probably gets far more visitors than Wharfdale. It's a much more interesting and attractive place. So we will, of course, make sure these resources are shared equally amongst our hotspots. Otherwise, people will feel hard done by. So.
Councillor Mulligan.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I welcome this initiative. I think it's long overdue. I feel like, dealing with littering, dogfouling, fly tipping, these are very significant issues for our residents. And I think our residents feel they've been under-resourced for some time. So I think this is great. I really hope the pilot succeeds. I hope there are penalty notices issued and that it serves as a deterrent because as everyone knows, I mean, wherever you go, everyone has their own story about litter, for example, but it is a serious issue for everyone. So I welcome this initiative. I really hope it's successful and I hope we roll it out further in the future. Thank you.
Just before you come in, Carl, just on that point, that rolling it out and hitting other areas, one of the things that we sort of found this year with Freshfield Quarry is when it closed, that's moved the problems elsewhere. So if we do start hitting an area quite hard and working on that area, it may move the problem. So is just a case of we really do want members to stay alert to this. If you hear of a problem in your area, please do let Tracy know. Hopefully, then we can deploy the resource to that area. You know, I mean, Autumn been busy throughout lockdown as people think they can go and hide on top of the hill at Horton in Ribblesdale and stuff. So it is there for the youth of Craven. It's not just stuck in this area. The report may look parochial, but that's where this group is. But the group is expandable because it does work with Malham, as does the rural watch. We'd realise with a bigger picture out there, Ingleton will have its problems, which I'll pass over to Councillor Lister to explain now.
I wasn't going to be as parochial as that. Well, maybe I might. Yeah, I mentioned in what I had to say that the procurement officers will still be taking a bit of time bringing the procurement strategy into force. That's an opportunity for, I'm sure, a lot of the things that members have brought up tonight, which shows the level of input we've had from members, shows each of our members' interest in this particular issue, which is something we share with our residents. What I would say is this, though, that let's not just run away with the idea that it's the visitors that do all this, because it isn't. I was at a meeting last night in Ingleton, and over this last few months, we've seen a substantial reduction, obviously, in the number of visitors, but we haven't seen a massive reduction in the amount of dog muck we've had around our streets. So yes, it's important that we make sure that people conduct themselves properly that visit our area, but we also need to educate the people, some of the people, a small minority of the people that live within Craven District, to tell them that the current level of the current things that they're doing are not acceptable, and they will be caught and they will be made examples of. I just wanted to bring that up because it isn't all about visitors. We do have a certain section of our population that were there before all the massive increase in visitors came along. So we will look at the issues raised by members tonight, and thank you very much, members, for your support.
On that note, Guy, do we need a vote?
Yes, we do need a vote on this one. If I can start with yourself, Councillor Foster.
I'm for this very much, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Ireton.
For.
Councillor Liz.
For.
Councillor Metcalfe.
Very much for.
Councillor Mulligan.
For.
Councillor Myers.
For.
Councillor Noland.
For.
Councillor Place.
For.
Councillor Rose.
Very much for.
Councillor Shuttleworth.
Emphatically for.
And Councillor Wheeler.
For.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, members. We've done item 8, haven't we? So we're on to item 9, Landcliffe Quarry. Since I've